Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast, and you know the drill by now. As always, I'm going to be kicking the ball over to this week. It's just going to be John and I for some chit-chat, and I know I say this pretty much every week, say the same thing pretty much every week here in the opening bits here, but I know I always say we're like all over the map with the conversation, but this time it's one of the longer chunks of conversation for a Save It for the Cast episode that I've ever clipped out in a while, so it's just like 25 minutes, maybe even a little bit more of John and I just talking all sorts of video games. Maybe a little bit off the map from there too, but or off the beaten path from the video game stuff as well. But I feel like we stay pretty focused. John kind of rattles off a ton of the stuff that he's been playing. I talk some of the BIT.TRIP games. Just a bunch of stuff that I've been playing. Some game pad like the Hori Split Pad Pro and controls and gyro controls. Yeah, like I said, just absolutely all over the map this week. And for one of the beefier chunks of conversation that we've had on a Save It for the Cast in a while. So yeah, and there's even more chunks. Like I had to like kind of cut myself off because I was like, man, John and I just keep going on this session here. But nonetheless, I'll talk about a few things that I've been playing as of late, and actually one other kind of like, quote unquote announcement here, because our first ever Pursuing Pixels community jam, game jam that has just kicked off on this Friday. So just a few days ago at the release of this episode here, but our good pals Turd Boomerang, Cardboard Moon, and Sapazu, among a few others, I think, went ahead and put together this jam of like, it's a little bit smaller than our normal, Pursuing Pixels James Jam game jam, but I've been really wanting to kind of do a second game jam every year and really haven't just been able to put the time and effort into that. So, they reached out and asked if we'd be interested or if I'd be, cool with them hosting kind of a smaller community jam. And it's been off to a great start so far. As always, the game jams have just been so great. We've been so lucky and fortunate to have so many just kind, talented, and just genuinely awesome folks joining us for these game jams. So it seems like this community jam is going to be no exception, and I'm going to do the usual, try to play through all the games. Like I said, it's a little bit smaller of a jam this time, so I should actually be able to play through all of the games, which I'm super, super pumped about, and just so honored and flattered that some folks in the community, went ahead and really wanted to, have another jam with the same kind of energy this year. I'm just really, really pumped to see what folks come up with. The theme ended up being Pocket, which I had nothing to do with selecting. So I'm really curious to see what folks come up with. Like I said, just to be a broken record here. But a couple of the games that I've been playing as of late as well. I'm going to keep it, like I said, short and sweet on the intro here. But I've still been just kind of combing through the games in the UFO 50 collection. I think I've mentioned a few times. It's come up a couple times on Save It for the Cast, I think, and then also just regular episodes proper, some that haven't been released just yet. But like I said, I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I have fired up all 50 of the games in the collection so far. Many of them I've only played, for probably 5 minutes or less. And then, some of them, I think the most I've played is Campanella 2, which, again, with a little nudging from Turd Boomerang to kind of check that one out. This one comes up on a, future episode of the podcast here, but a few folks among, our pals in the Discord have been saying like, oh, this is kind of like Spelunky 3 hidden within UFO 50. It's obviously got a totally different kind of flavor and feel to it, but it definitely has a similar, kind of roguelike gameplay loop to it. But I've put about an hour into that one, that being my most played game, and I've put about, 8.5 to 9 hours into the full collection so far, and still really, really just loving my time with it. At first, I was a little bit, caught off guard by they kept promoting, again, just broken record here, but they kept promoting these full, complete games, and to me, a lot of them are more post-jam, game jam feel, which is perfect. I don't have the time to play 50 full-fledged games, whether they're, retro-tinged or modern Skyrim style games. I just don't have the time to dedicate to that kind of stuff these days. So this is kind of perfect to just fire up the games, get a quick taste. And if it's something that gets the hooks in me, it's I can get a pretty good taste of what this game's all about within 15, 20 minutes. Obviously not beat the whole game. But yeah, I've just been really, really loving going through that collection of games. And they've really just covered so many different genres and so well. I'm really excited to kind of explore some of the ones that I've just scratched the surface of, knowing okay, this is a horror point and click game, not necessarily something I would play on my own accord if it wasn't within this collection, but actually that was one of the ones that captivated me more than some of the others when I was first kind of, just dusting off the games in the collection. And then another one that I've mentioned on a Save It for the Cast, I think before, is Swordship, And it's a roguelike bullet hell arcade game. It's more of like a dodge 'em up than a shoot 'em up because you don't have too many means of attacking. You kind of have like more like bombs and like maybe some like, tertiary means of like doing some minor damage, but you're more trying to like get the enemies to attack one another because they're always going to be targeting you. And you just want to kind of like get the other enemies, in between you and the enemy that's, I guess, about to fire next. And it just gets so fast paced. It's so slick. The loading times when you first boot up the game take forever. Again, to be a broken record here, but once the game is running, it's perfect. And it's just so fast paced. It runs great on the Switch. Again, apart from that load time. And then another game that I'm going to be talking about on a proper episode here as well. But our buddy DJ from the early days of the podcast came into town for the weekend and hung out. And it just so happened that the new Kingdom 2 Crowns DLC for Call of Olympus just came out. So obviously this has got more of like a Greek, ancient Greece kind of, with a little mythology thrown in there, tinge to it or theme to it. This is, I think, the second or third like purchasable DLC. There's been a few standalone titles as well, like with Kingdom 80s, which I actually still haven't played that one just yet. But yeah, DJ and I have just been such huge fans of Kingdom 2 Crowns, so it was just perfect timing for this to come out. It was the first time I've actually seen credits roll on a Kingdom game. On a Kingdom run, if you will. It's sort of like a roguelike tower defense. It's not fully roguelike, especially in this version. It's definitely probably the most campaigny of the releases that I've played. But I really, really loved playing through that with DJ. I kind of want to play again solo because I just feel like DJ likes to play so much more aggressive than I do, where I like to kind of like take my time and really try to, quote unquote, get a perfect run. Obviously you're never going to do everything perfectly, but try to like, sustain as little damage as possible and really like expand things slowly. And I just really love though, the like ebb and flow of that game between the day and night cycle and the tower defense and the resource management. It's just such a great series. I will say it does lose a little bit of its magic, playing it, this being like the fifth or sixth, iteration that I've played now. It loses a little bit of that magic of like the discovery of like, firing up stuff for the first time, or sorry, not firing up. I'm talking about UFO 50 a minute ago, but more like trying stuff out for the first time. Like, cause everything there's very little text and dialogue in the game. You're more like just like you're prompted with, oh, hey, this looks like it costs something. And I can use my one or two sources of, resources to spend. I can either like build up a wall or, when you're playing for the first time, you don't know what anything's going to do until you just try it. So, now that you mostly know there's a few new things added with each new DLC, but like it's not enough to really recapture that magic fully, but it still does have that magic of the, beautiful pixel art and the, beautiful soundtrack, just everything about this game. It just has such a wonderful, just ebb and flow to it. I guess it's the best way to put it. But I've done enough, even more rambling than I meant to here. I'm going to kick it over to John, like I said, for a nice meaty conversation here with video game talk all over the map, retro, modern, and otherwise. So, I'll leave things there. And until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care. Started up again, some of these I've been kind of thinking like, I'll save this because I started up Return of the Obra Dinn after you mentioned it, but I was like, I feel like we should wait since we're all planning on playing it.
100%
wait a little bit.
Same.
Because I feel like that's a good like discussion one. Like it'll be a fun to dive into, even if it's not a full episode, just that game. Like,
have
just fun to touch on.
Submitted 3?
Not yet. I have 2. I have 2 that I think I'm pretty solid on, but I don't. I'll spoil. I'm pretty sure I got the captain and the captain's wife. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But I'm not positive.
Let me tell you right now, the first 3 are gimmies. Like whatever you're thinking, you're right.
Okay. Even honestly, I've been second guessing because for a second I kept like looking at that captain and I was like, what are these fucking long johns? This can't be the captain. And then the first guy that you find, at least I'm assuming it's the first one that, well, I don't know. I guess you could go to any of the handful first, but like I look at that one guy that gets shot by the captain first.
And for some reason, like I was confident that I was like, oh, it's this guy, like based on the picture, like it's definitely this guy, or he definitely got killed by the captain, or I can't remember what I like was solid on, but I was like, that's for sure. But then when I like looked at the next thing, I was like, wait, that looks like a different guy. And like, I don't know, I just kept getting confused. It's a I don't know, it's a head trip of a game, for
dude.
sure.
So yeah, like the first 3 are kind of like the tutorial of like how the game works. And
I feel
so,
like I've made it a decent amount though. Like I feel like, I don't know, maybe I missed
there's
one
a lot
that I could have.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay, actually, yeah. I guess if you haven't, I submitted it basically as soon as I felt like I had enough. So like I bet you can just like keep going ahead and do more scenes without like submitting any like definitive information. But like once like I did the first 3 and then I just kept doing scenes, and like it gave me a little thing after I did the first 3 where it was like the information will be sparse. And like they will not, it will be rare that you will get definitive like things that you can tie back. And like
I did get that message too. So maybe I did find a third one and just didn't notice it. But that sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah, because like by the time that I submitted the first 3 and then moved on, I was like, I kept doing scenes and I was like, I've got nothing. Like I can't, like I'm getting deaths. And I'm like,
that's all. That's where I'm at. I have 2 of the names that I'm confident on, and I probably have about 8 or 7, 8 to 10 maybe deaths that I'm confident on.
Okay,
but even that, I'm like, is that clubbed?
Right?
Or is it?
For the
like,
longest
for example,
time, I didn't get like suicide by gun. I was just like, what the hell? Like I thought this was shot. Like,
oh, I see. Yeah. Like the secondary options for some of the things.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, or
even the wife of the captain, like she's like getting hit by the Kraken, so I'm like killed by a beast, but she's like, but it's also like holding a pole of the ship, so I think I put is crushed by like the banister or whatever it's called, like crushed by the support. I forget what what word it
mast.
Used. I don't know. I don't think it was mast. It said like just not scaffolding, but it was like a word to that effect.
Right.
But I don't know. That's where so I'm like, I don't know if I know it's the captain's wife, and I'm like, I know it's one of a few options, I guess, for this.
All right.
Death,
so I'm going to play more of it because,
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely digging it. I don't think I'm going to beat it because I don't think I'm big brained enough for that. Like, I definitely got to like break out a notebook and.
I've heard that that's how people have played it. But also, like, I'm kind of the mindset that I'm like, all right, like I'll do a playthrough where I'm just fucking wrong. I'm just completely wrong because
I don't have to beat it, I guess. Yeah. And it is like, I am loving though just like the presentation. I wasn't expecting to be so. I knew that obviously the visuals are amazing, but on Switch, number one, it looks great. Like it runs and plays really, really great. I don't know if that's where you're playing it as well, but
no, I'm actually playing it on Steam. I think I'm playing it on Steam. Yes, I am. But like, I think it's like a great game for Switch because like everything's static kind of. Mm-hmm. So like it's basically, it just has to load the scene and then like it's just you moving around it.
Yeah. But the sound design is so fucking good. Like, and the music too. Like I just wasn't expecting there to be like, I was expecting it to be more like atmospheric and not a lot of music, but like every time it like goes into a scene, I'm like, oh, I'm like getting fucking pumped.
Yep. God. All right.
Swashbuckling tunes, man.
Let's table this because we gotta.
I'm juiced. I've been eyeing on Randall. I don't know if I'm assuming he has it on Switch. I haven't seen him fire it up, but I know he's been super busy lately. But
okay, I'm gonna run through some games that I'm not gonna talk about.
Okay.
Because I've been playing a ton. So I did start up a Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky game.
I don't think I even know what that is. Or is that one of the ones that you sent us, like the shooters?
No, it's a whatchamacallit? It's a JRPG, and I thought it was much later than it is. It looks like a PSX game.
Okay.
But that's interesting. Did you play Sun and the Moon or the Sun and Moon?
Is that a Daniel Linson game?
It might be. It's a platformer where you like hold a button to go through the ground, and it's like a gravity based one.
I don't think I have. I'm almost positive it's a Daniel Linson game, but I might be mixing it up with something else. It might just have like a similar aesthetic to some of his other games.
Yeah.
But it's one that I haven't played of his. I've played quite a few.
It definitely it felt like a Kevin game to me.
Okay.
Just because it's like a physics-based platformer.
Let's see.
With like a good art style and like minimalist, like.
Yep, Daniel Linson indeed.
Yep.
And it was the winner of Ludum Dare 29.
That makes
I'm
sense.
assuming fleshed out a little bit more beyond that Game Jam version possibly, but.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Not for me.
Okay, yeah, I know you're not the biggest like precision platformer guy.
Yeah. I played After Image, which I don't know if you ever heard of.
I'm looking these up as you mention them, so.
It's a Metroidvania, like it was what was in my head when I was talking about like Whiskey Squadron Survivor, about like how we have a glut of Metroidvanias that like are every shape and form, and everybody like has their own take on it now, and like compared to before when we were so hard up on them, and like I don't know, it also did nothing for me.
Yeah, this one looks like, I mean, it's got like a nice art style, not my thing personally, but like it's like obviously like it's well done and looks nice, but
exactly, but like it just like I've played a bunch of Metroidvanias that like have just done nothing for me.
Yeah,
which is a little bit of a bummer, but
I'm excited to play some of the like I'm assuming kind of mini-ish Metroidvanias on the UFO 50 collection, because I feel like those are going to be more my speed of like on the shorter, sweeter side, although not that Baruta or whatever. Definitely it seems like such a tedious game to play.
Yeah. Oh man. But I did start Record of the Lodos War, Deedlit and Wonder Labyrinth, which it's so Lodos War is another anime series or like IP, and it's made by the same Team Ladybug, the team that did Toho Luna Nights.
Yeah, they make awesome stuff.
Yeah, so like that's why I wanted to play it, and like that was their game I think before Toho Luna Nights, and I know that like it is a very similar thing of like people who were really excited that Lodos was getting a good game made out of it.
Yeah,
which is interesting. I've started a couple Toho games, but like they like
the actual shmups or whatever. I know most of them are bullet hell, but there's a few different genres.
I have played only the spin-offs. I have played none of the actual thing that it is based around. I have only played like a puzzler shoot 'em. It's not even, I don't even know how to describe it. It didn't really control well on Steam Deck. I don't think it was designed
like
for it.
Built for it, yeah.
I think it was more of a mouse and keyboard one. And then I don't know if I bought it actually, but it's a Mahjong game. So it's just a Toho skin of Mahjong, basically.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And then let's see. I did play a little bit of X Zodiac after Whisker Squadron Survivor.
Okay, how was that one?
It was fine. Like, that's the thing. I've been trying a lot of these I don't know what you like on rail shooters, but not all of them are even on rail shooter, because the one Mirage Feathers, which I'm a little just uncomfortable with the aesthetic design choices of the game, period. But like that one is, I've heard people refer to as Afterburner like.
Okay.
Which is not technically, I think, a on rails shooter.
I was just gonna say, isn't that like a racing game in some way?
Yeah, because that's how it's a similar thing. Like if you think about Race the Sun and like that, the evolution of that like racer genre thing, where or the Cruisin' Exotica. That's the Touchstone Daytona. Like those.
Yeah.
The ones that
USA. Like it's almost like an auto runner racing game hybrid.
Correct.
In a weird way.
And so like with the Afterburner comparison, it's like, okay, you're kind of doing that with a free space and then using it as a shooter like on top of that. And it's interesting to contrast that with what like Everspace is, because it is the evolution of that genre, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to get into it when I talk about Everspace, but
yeah,
I also played Loop Hero a little bit.
Oh, nice. I've only ever played like the tutorial of that game, and I was like, this seems cool, but I have it on PC, and I'm just like, I haven't sat down and really played it.
I don't think the gamepad controls are as intuitive. Like it's a lot of like using ZR like to shift through menus, which I think would just be so much easier with a drag and drop. Like
it's built. The game's built for mouse play for sure.
But it's interesting. Again, didn't really grab me all that much. Then I booted up Etrian Odyssey.
Okay, I remember you mentioning that in like the Discord or something, or mentioned they were on sale or something.
Yeah, and I've only ever played them on DS, and a similar thing where having a stylus to draw on a grid the map is so much easier than whatever you're doing on it. But like, I don't know, it's nice to have another form of it. It's nice to have another thing of it, but it's such a weird RPG. Like the way that the systems come together are so janky, and like I think it is way more obvious on Steam than on DS. Like I think on 3DS it felt a lot cleaner and a lot more easier to navigate, specifically because of like the touch screen controls
and like the dual screen too, like having it separated, and
so like it just feels so weird. Like I kind of like how awkward it feels, but like not in a way that I can ever like recommend it to someone. Like at certain points, I'm like, how did this get released? How did I play this for any amount of time and think it was like well made? Like it feels like it's barely held together, and I kind of love it more for that.
I know what you mean about that for sure. Sometimes when a game is just like, this is like almost not working, but I don't know. It's just like there's some charm, extra charm that adds to it or something.
Yeah, and like it does have so much charm to it. In addition to that, like I don't know, there's something weird about the Etrian Odyssey games that like I don't get from a lot of other games. I think the like series that comes closest to it is like Shin Megami Tensei.
Okay.
Which is kind of its own weird thing. And are they both Atlas? Does Atlas make Shin Megami Tensei?
I think, or I don't know if they make or publish, but they are, I think, involved in that. But I might just think that because like anytime there's like a super Japanese JRPG, I'm like, it must be Atlas or like that. What's that other one? Is it NIS or am I thinking of something
Nippon
else?
Ichi Software. Yeah. Atlas does. It's a developer, publisher, and arcade. Yeah, that's it. It just has like some wild design choices that
it's like that first person dungeon crawl kind of the game, right? Yeah.
And
I've never played those.
I don't know if I can recommend them. Like,
especially for me, like someone like me, I feel like I'd be too tedious for
they're really
my blood.
Bizarre. Like so many of it's almost in a way. What was the dungeon encounters? Like the Square RPG one dungeon crawler, but like it removed everything other than just like it looked like you were playing a crossword puzzle.
Okay.
Like it was you moving on a grid, but like your characters were just like profile pictures on a splash screen, like not even like a full character model, and like
like a board game token basically.
Like Dungeon Encounters was like kind of great in that it really stripped away everything but the core mechanics of an RPG, and like Etrian Odyssey does a similar thing, but like keeps some really weird stuff. So like I love it. Like I think it's great, but I don't necessarily think it's good, which is, I don't know how to make that distinction other than to just say like it's a really unique experience that I've enjoyed, but I don't necessarily think is a good game.
If it's sometimes it just scratches the right itch, you know, like it's just like, this is just for whatever reason, this is mindlessly satisfying to me, or even it doesn't have to be mindlessly,
but yeah.
I don't know, like even just something like I went back and recently played just the other day. I've been doing, I think I told you last time we recorded, you and Randall, that like I've been doing more like just recordings of videos again as opposed to streaming, just because I haven't had the energy after work, especially when I'm coming home in like a bad mood, just like I'm so fucking lazy. I don't feel like now like because I'm dealing with patients and customers or whatever all day, so I don't want to be like, oh, now I gotta like be on again while I'm streaming. It's just easier to like, let me record a video for 20 minutes and then be done, or 15 minutes. So I fired up some of the BIT.TRIP games.
Hell yeah.
And I just talked about them on our Save It for the Cast too, but like I was gonna start with BIT.TRIP Runner, just because I was like, this is my least favorite of the bunch from what I remember, and like just because I'm always annoyed by like how the input timing of the music is like not lined up with the music. Like I don't know how to explain it better than that, but I decided to fire up because I was like, the two that I'm probably the least familiar with, or like remember the least, are BIT.TRIP Fate and BIT.TRIP Void. But I remember liking them a lot, so I fired both those up again, and I do still like them both a lot. Those are probably my two favorites, actually.
Void is so fascinating. Like, it's a really interesting design. Like,
yeah, so simple. It's like basically an Atari game. It's like there's nothing much to it, but it's just so, that risk reward and just like the balance of the design is so perfect.
So what are you playing it
minimalistic on Switch? I just bought, they were like all on sale a long time ago for like $1.50 each, and I just bought each of them individually because like I had them on WiiWare, and then or on Wii or whatever, and then I did buy like that BIT.TRIP collection or BIT.TRIP Saga or whatever it was called on 3DS, but it made like some of the games were way too easy. Like for example, BIT.TRIP Beat, when you can just literally like use the stylus and move the paddle up and down, it was like, okay, this isn't like, that's what made the
it was a hard game.
It was like
when
the gyroscope controls. Like it was just pure like dexterity. And like normally I kind of hate those kind of controls where they're like forcing the motion controls, but it worked well enough. Yeah. And like when you got into that flow state and you'd like hit those perfect like sine wave patterns or whatever, like
God, those were so good.
Or you'd have to like twitch it like just a little forward and then back, and then you'd like get that hand memory down or muscle memory down to like, okay, I got to keep like moving it forward X amount of degrees and then back just a little bit and then forward again that same amount, and you're like creeping it up. It was just amazing.
And the way that they would deploy the different types and colors of beats so that you would know like the green one's gonna bounce or whatever.
Yeah,
like
this one's gonna come back at me again and like bounce all the way along the bottom, or
God. And
just
the way it's
so good.
Such a well organized game, or like a designed game, like truly.
I do want to go back and play those, and I'm curious how I'm sure you can use gyro controls, because like for example like BIT.TRIP Fate, I was just playing with the Pro controller. Right. I'm pretty sure in that game though you would like use the nunchuck on the Wii to like move the character left and right on like the line that you were on or path, and then you would point with the Wii remote at like the screen to shoot where you wanted to shoot, if I recall correctly.
I think that's
but this
right.
This allowed me to just play it as like a twin stick shooter, like just using the right stick to kind of point and aim wherever I wanted to aim it. 360 degrees, which was kind of cool. It was nice to play that way. But like right when I started the game, you could see that cursor on the screen. So I'm sure if I had the Joy-Cons hooked up, it would have been an option to like aim at the screen too if I wanted to.
I think you're right, because I definitely remember the nunchuck being left and right on the rails, and like there wasn't a second joystick, so it would have had to have been.
Yeah, and I remember like needing the nunchuck for that game in
Yeah.
particular. I think only for that one and maybe for BIT.TRIP Void too, because I think you just needed that 360 control. Like there were, and then you just pushed A on the Wiimote, I think, to like.
Which is
blow up
why,
your
like, initially
Void.
when you said you were playing it on Switch, I was like, how are you doing that? And I was like, no, there's basically no controls to that game. Like, you can easily map that to a gamepad.
Yeah, but I am curious though, like how, like, for example, like for a game like if BIT.TRIP Beat, for example, if you can only play it with gyro, like I don't think it would work then. Like when I have like my Hori like Split Pad Pro hooked up, because those controllers don't have any gyro in them, like they don't like register as like anything other than just like it's hooked up to the console and like that's all you can do with them.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like if I like when I first fired up Kirby's Tilt and Tumble or whatever, I was like, it's not working, and then I plugged in the Joy-Cons and I was like,
smart.
that's why. So it's a bummer. This thing could be, these Hori split pads they're already great. It does make playing the handheld more comfortable, if not quite a bit bulkier. But if they just made it where I could pop them onto the dongle or the dog bone thing and then use it as like a extra pro controller or pseudo pro controller. But yeah, again, they only work like hooked up to the
Actual
handheld and that's it.
That's a bummer.
They don't even have their own like battery charge or anything. It's weird.
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of nice that you don't have to charge them, but.
And then one more game that I wanted to talk about that I'm not going to talk about on like the episode proper is I picked back up Outer Wilds.
Ooh, nice.
And I solved like 2 puzzles. And I felt like I booted it up and like immediately picked it up and went to places and solved 2 puzzles. And I was like, let's fucking go. We're going to beat this game. And then immediately was like, nope, too stupid. I used up all my brain power solving those 2 puzzles. Time to set this game down for another month.
That's hilarious. That game's like on that same big brain, like Obra Dinn kind of level, you know? So that's crazy to even consider. Like I would never consider even breaching those 2 games around the same time.
But like, I remember being so clueless on what to do next when I like last like put down Outer Wilds. And like, as soon as I picked it up, I was like, oh, I know what to do. Like, just
I love that feeling.
Having the time away and being like, oh yeah, this is obviously where this puzzle piece that I was staring for a month straight at, like this is where that goes. So like, it's still just like, I like part of me wants to make the claim of it being like one of the best games ever made. Like,
damn. You wouldn't be the first one to say that. I remember when that game came out, people were really pumped about that game for sure.
Like other games have done similar things, but not in the way that I feel like this one is just hitting on all cylinders at all times. Like there's not a single part of the game that I think is wasted or doesn't add something to it, even if it seems like so tertiary to the overall experience. Like I think that every single aspect of it is just perfect, like in a way that I think so few games are.
Yeah, it reminds me of are you familiar with the game? I've never played it or anything, but The Last Express. It's an older PC, like kind of point and click adventure style game from like, I think I just pulled it up online. It's from 97.
Hell yeah.
It's developed or designed by Jordan Mechner. I think he is let me see here.
Yo, this game looks great.
Yeah, he's the Prince of Persia, like the original Prince of Persia developer as well, or designer.
Ooh, also Broderbund.
Yeah, so this game is apparently, like the guys on Idle Thumbs used to talk about it all the time and like just rave about it, because it's like as soon as the game starts, it's like all just like in Outer Wilds, it's all in real time, like everything, like the game is on a real time clock. So like everything, you have a limited window of time to do things and discuss things with people and solve this mystery. Like you got to kind of watch. You know, a lot of games like that are just like, oh, watch the loop that this character will do. And then, meet him back in the kitchen after they, go around this thing, where this game is just like, if you missed your chance to talk to that guy, now he's dead and he's dead for the rest of the game. Or whatever.
This looks incredible.
Yeah, I think they actually remade it, or at least like re-released it on modern platforms not too long ago. I guess those Idle Thumbs episodes are pretty old at this point, but I remember them talking about it like coming out.
I don't know. Part of me loves the fact that like I can still like find out about these games that I've never heard of before.
I know. That's why I love that Idle Thumbs podcast so much, because like they were in that PC.
But like especially the fact that like it's not like just new games, because there's always going to be new games that were incredible, but like finding out is like, oh yeah, this game was made in 97.
Yeah, like this brilliant thing that like Outer Wilds I thought was this groundbreaking thing, which it still is, not to take anything away from it, but it's like, man, the people were doing this in 97 with like a similar idea.
Like,
and
making things so far beyond the capabilities that like the technology was available to them.
Yeah, like think about how that's like, again, what always made an impression on me is just like how like mind blowing of an experience it seemed like to them playing it, when they were younger. And I'm sure as people who like make games, it's even more like impressive.
It's on sale right now for $1.39
on Steam.
Right. Yep, on Steam.
Oh, nice.
They're at least the gold edition, which is like...
I think that's that new version. Yeah, like that just like whatever. I'm sure it's just got some quality of life stuff added, hopefully.
I mean, I think probably the original one just had like such low res like visuals. Like this just... Whoa, okay, this is kind of incredible. Like it's hand-drawn stuff.
Yeah.
So like it like actually at high res it kind of looks incredibly goofy, which is great.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. I don't think it's necessary to this game. Like, I think that this is really interesting, but I don't necessarily think it enhances the game experience.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like I've played a ton of roguelikes where it's like, this isn't a bad idea, but it's not making the game any better and might even be making it worse.
Right.
Or making it more annoying or whatever, another layer to battle through.
But at the same time, like, oh man, this could have just been in the fucking episode. What
I know. It'll make it in there some way.